I think it is a strategy in his mind, but more of it in sort of normal world, we use it, we call it tactics. He does have an idea of what he wants to do, which is he wants to be uniter of all these great lands that Russia had and then the Soviet Union had, and now has been squandered away, and he always feels that the West is really responsible for this kind of losses, the end of the Cold War and other instances. So what he's doing is he's bringing back that Russian glory, the grandeur of the nation. And I think that is his strategic goal. And the way he achieves it in small tactical incursions into territories that he thinks he can take. For example, in 2008, there were two parts of Georgia that was taken away from Georgia, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Now it is Crimea. He may be already considering parts of Moldova that feel themselves pro-Russian. So that's the sort of tactics and strategy together.
So here's the question for you, with your particular sort of insight and family background in Russia. Do you think the Russian people buy it? I know the polls look good for Putin at the moment, but when we see the economy vulnerable, when we see credit ratings agencies putting new pressures on the Russian economy, and it could lead to recession, let's face it, do you think in the long run the Russian people buy this strategic view of Putin's?
For now, they are buying. It's a very emotional support for Putin. I think in the long run, and that's where we go back to strategy, strategically, this is really not the way to go, because economy is plunging. Russia has been already in a recession even before the Ukraine crisis began. And very soon, what kind of a great country you have if you really have to tighten your belts and be poor again. And Russia hasn't experienced poverty for at least 15 years now.
Speaking as a member of the Khrushchev clan, I just wonder what your reaction to Putin's mindset is.
Look, we were ousted. As you may remember, Khrushchev was ousted from the Kremlin in 1964, so we are lucky. We actually do not have the Kremlin mentality. I think what he means is that, his idea of Russian greatness is size does matter. I mean, that's a lot of Russians believe. I think that's one of the reasons they support in Crimea, they support the annexation, because they want to be part of the great Russia versus the small Russia, another name for Ukraine. Russians do not want to be part of a small country, and Putin really channels this kind of attitude, sort of a new imperial attitude.
So
as for the Cold War,
that's such an important point about this sort of imperial desire that we see from the Kremlin. How far can it go? I mean, how worried should people in other parts of Eastern Europe, particularly those with a Russian or Russian-speaking minority, how worried should they be today?
I don't think he's going to go further than he has for now. They should worry, because he's clearly strategically, once again, he is taking those territories, although in very tactical terms. I think people in Moldova should worry. The Gagauzia are part of Moldova. While we were worrying about Ukraine and looking at Ukraine, they actually very quietly had a referendum in February that claimed that if Moldova decides to go closer to European Union, then Gagauzia will vote to become part of Russia. So he's a very sort of opportunistic tactician, because he takes territories he thinks he will have public support for. But he can certainly go quite far. I don't think economy will allow him. Today the story is that he already is holding off Russian sanctions, sort of the backlash of Russian sanctions against the Americans and Western politicians altogether. So we'll see what happens with that.